wish I could stayed. I mean, we started earlier and all, but I had a commitment with the Congress, veterans from Africa. They arrived yesterday. I had to implore them to bear with me because I thought it is important that I come and address you, but they are impatiently waiting for me. So if I'm going to be very short, you've got to understand. I'm hoping that this is the beginning. We'll get more chances to talk as we go along. I am delighted to be with you to share experiences of another generation of youth, my generation, which I call the Soweto generation, for the simple reason that 1976 June was a big uprising in South Africa, in Soweto. But it was symptomatic of something which was happening in the whole region, starting with including Zimbabwe. And the trigger really in 75 or 74 was the freedom of Mozambique. Machel and Frelimo came to victory. This is a country which is considered backward. Some says I'm from Mozambique is one of the poorest countries in the world, if not still the poorest. We are neighbors. We've shared a common history since antiquity. All our trade as a big trading empire was through Mozambique. We won, but because of colonialism, we divided. They didn't want, particularly the Shona people from either side, to be one group, because they are one of the most formidable social and economic and political groupings of Africa, the Shona people, between the Limpopo and the Zambezi. And the testament, and across the Limpopo, and the testament of our background is the great civilization starting from 800 AD at Mapungubwe in South Africa, which was a precursor to Great Zimbabwe, which later on came Kami and Zolo and all the others. So the Shona people have always been one of the most organized African societies. That's why when others were building with stone, I mean with more, when others were building with data and grass and trees all over sub-Saharan Africa, you built in stone, in granite. And many centuries later, you can't doubt what we did. It was his testament in Great Zimbabwe and other places. So we've always been a very organized African grouping. But the Portuguese and the British decided to divide you across the mountains of Mozambique. But we are one. So Mozambique remained more backward than us because Portugal is a poor country in Europe. It's a third rate or even a fourth rate imperial power. So despite their backwardness, Mozambican people under Frelimo overthrew the Portuguese government, then, through a coup which happened in Portugal in 1974. It was the most liberating effect on the whole region. That a country which we thought was backward, with people that had no kumayadi, so the whole youth in the region changed their mentality. And for us in Zimbabwe, we're fighting the foremost imperial power of the time, which is the British. There's never been any empire as powerful as the British Empire. We suddenly said, if Mozambicans can do it, we also can do it. So all youths from that time onwards decided to go to war. A lot of them, not all, a lot of them. And I belong to that generation. It was across all walks of life. We suddenly found ourselves in our hundreds of tens of thousands. Initially, hundreds, but within a very short period of thousands. And by the time the war ended, it was over 300,000 probably people in Mozambique and Zambia. All of them coming from everywhere, all walks of life. I came from the university with the other 5 and another 3 followed to war. And the dramatic effect of that is that Rhodesian rule, which had lasted for more than 90 years unchallenged, collapsed in a mere 4 years. The first year, 75, was just getting organized in Mozambique. And we were building upon what others had done, the 45 from 72 in Mount Dowry. And then they became the Ngagao group, which was about 1,000. They were the core, which organized all the others to become the formidable force, which in a short period of 4 years brought to heel the Rhodesian regime, which was supported by all the Anglo-Saxon world, America, Israel, South Africa, Britain. So we mounted a challenge to a formidable military machinery. And we had no experience of dealing with guns before. Remember, we just basically cattle head boys, or Askana to take them from Matsime. Now we had to become organized, become a military force. And to show our openness at that time, some trained in Cuba, some trained in Ethiopia, some trained in Vietnam, some trained in China. We were people from Norway, suddenly on the world stage, begging and looking for arms to come and confront our enemy. And remember, the main advantage which Europe had got over Africa in the third world from the Berlin Conference in 1884 was that once Europe mastered gunpowder and used it to put it in a canister to become a bullet and use the machine gun, they then said nobody should be given weapons who is not European. It was a cartel of weapons in the Berlin Conference clause. Don't give other races, other continents weapons because we want to subjugate them, to support European empires. The Russian Bolshevik Revolution in the Lenin was the first one to take the gun out of Europe and give it to the Chinese. And from the Chinese, the gun became ubiquitous. So when we decided to confront the Europeans, we knew that now we could go on the world market and get a gun. Because the gun levels all human beings. A spear and a gun, no chance. So if we had not had that, we would have been in bondage. But once you got a gun, you are on equal terms with anybody. And because you're the majority, the whites were few. That's why in 4 years, we could defeat them. But appreciate the learning curve. You have been all to school. Mastering the British and the Rhodesians, they had a tradition of weapons for more than 400 years. We had none. Ours were being defeated in 1896 when we were still, anyway, they had some guns, you know, Mashaimo, the event that was getting this were then stopped by the Berlin Conference and Mashaimo and all the others were then denied weapons from Europe. That's why it was easy for the British to defeat us in 1896. Of course, the Maxim gun, which were used against Bengola and the Debeles, it revolutionized war, and it made it even the odds against black people strong. Why am I recounting? I'm recounting so that you remember the importance of organization to the learning curve. You have to quickly master the challenges of a modern society in order to address all the issues which face you. And now, what did it involve? It involved organizing rural people against the Rhodesians. I can tell you, we paid a very high price to organize rural people, to make them understand that they become a force against the British. I was among the first groups which came right to the center of the country. I walked all the way for 3 months from Nyanga to Noto, organizing, sleeping, changing every village every 1 or 2 days, organizing people. You can defeat these people. You can be powerful. Empowering them from within. Don't sell out. This is your cause. And this is what we did as young people. That's why this country is the most organized country in Africa, Zimbabwe. It came from teaching rural people basically to understand that they could overcome their inhibitions, they could overcome their anxieties, they would overcome their historical prejudices and customary. They could overcome and become people who are organized to defeat the Rhodesians. And once we organize the people, and the people respond because there is an inner element of justice in people. Once they know that there is a cause which can be supported, it is just, and once they know that it can open opportunities for them to be prosperous, people respond. And that's how they responded. I maintain we are the most organized African country on this continent because of what that generation of youths did. Yeah, and I want to give you just a quick example of how organized. We've never been thanked as war veterans by this government. Not apart from the fact that we want the independence. Everybody marvels at the educational level of Zimbabweans. Do you know how it was done? Let me tell you how it was done. The World Bank says to President Mugabe, you want to send everybody to school but you have no money. The capacity of your country to send everybody to school is not there. You are coming from a war. We sit with the President Mugabe, we say to him, we will organize organize the parents the same way we organized them during the war to build schools. And the parents were organized by the war veterans. All your parents, they built the schools which are in the rural areas for nothing, because they wanted their children to go to school. This is how Zimbabwean people are. You understand now? And can you imagine the impact on the GDP of having all those schools, the hardware of schooling being built for free by the parents? And there was a race between the parents and the government. You supply the software, the teachers, we supply the hardware, the schools. Do you know who won? Do you know who won? The parents won. The government was behind in supplying the teachers. They couldn't get the resources. Of that little money which had been allocated just for teachers, it was still not enough. The parents were building more schools than they could get teachers. You know what we ended up doing? We had to go to Cuba to go and ask them to train teachers for us. More than 4,000 Zimbabwean teachers trained in Cuba. That's how we did it, organization. Our parents doing it. That has not been happening. There is nothing miraculous which was done by this government except building upon what had been done in the war. The same organization which delivered independence is the same organization which delivered what? Which delivered education for all. That's why we're on top of everybody. It's for veterans, organizing people. This is not acknowledged. And worse now, because there are people who are very well, we have no capacity, intellectual capacity, to either study history or to appreciate history. So they, once you can't learn and assimilate the past, even your capacity to shape the future is curtailed. That's why we are. That's why we are where we are today now as a country. We have unleashed on the continent a military organization, the most unique army in Africa is ours. We built it body by body, lost eye by lost eye, broken short arm by short arm to build our army. From nothing, on our own. Other African armies were inherited. Of course, I respect the Angolan and the Mozambican army, but the Angolan army had been held later by the Cubans. We were not. We fought completely on our own against the most modern imperial power, Britain, supported by war veterans from America who had been to Vietnam, the most advanced military techniques. They are master of the helicopter. They are master of the aircraft on the ground. Yay! Like yeah. So the war, even we did it in 4 years, it would have been shorter if we were able to capture the weapons, because we would then use their weapons to arm ourselves. But they were so careful to make sure that their weapons are not captured. 15 minutes before the helicopter comes. Now you can't run with a gun, another gun in the hand when you are running away from the helicopter. So we never captured weapons. This was the response time of the Rhodesian army. Brilliant, in counterinsurgents, but we brought them to heel. That's why I'm so proud of our army. That's why it fully collapsed. The country is still standing. It is because of the state apparatus which we set up. It makes this country be strong. I want you to respect that institution. That is the institution which is unique about Zimbabwe, and it is unique. That's why I told you about the delivery of education. We were veterans in the army, and that tradition of the youth is what you must appreciate. A unique African army owing all its origins to the efforts of the people of Zimbabwe, through their cadres who were coming to fight, through the people who were organized in rural areas and in urban areas. That's what we have. So we must revere that institute which is called the apparatus of the state. That's why it is so conscious about its obligation to the people, that army, because it came from the people. That's why they can go for months on end without salaries in a poor economy, and they don't rebel. Other African armies would have rebelled long time ago.